Talk of federal gun legislation is front and center again, thanks to mass shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, and Boulder, Colorado, not to mention Chicago's dismally high homicide rate. One possibility is a revival of a federal assault weapons ban. The last ban expired in 2004, but a new study from Northwestern University says that as many as 30 mass shootings could have been prevented had the ban stayed in place. Joining us now to discuss that study and its implications are Richard Pearson, Executive Director of the Illinois State Rifle Association, and the study's lead author, Lori-Ann Post, Professor of Emergency Medicine and Medical Social Sciences at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine. Post is also a member of the National Rifle Association. Welcome both of you to Chicago tonight. Professor Post, first, for the purposes of your study and this discussion, define for us exactly what an assault weapon is.
An assault weapon, if you're talking to me, an assault weapon is a gun that is used primarily for combat, or they're created and manufactured for combat. And it means that they have a grip on them, they have a scope. There's a variety of different types of assault weapons. And the primary feature that increases killing is rapid fire. Some have rapid fire ability, and then also they have you can insert a magazine into the assault weapon to increase the lethality. And
I know there gets a little bit of confusion around semi-automatic weapons versus automatic weapons. All right, so your study found that between 94 and 2004, when a ban was in place on assault weapons federally, it prevented 11 mass shootings, and you say would it have stayed in place since 2004, it could have prevented another 30 mass shootings. Explain how you came to those numbers.
So what I did was I looked at the trend line before the imposition of the federal assault weapons ban, which also included a ban on large capacity magazines. And so I looked at the trend line, and it showed an increase. It was tilting upwards, and then I ran a second trend line during the assault weapons ban while it was in place, and it had a decreasing trend, with the lowest year being the last year of the assault weapons ban. And then after the ban sunsetted, then I ran a third regression line that dramatically increased.
And you were looking specifically at mass shootings. Richard Pearson, your reaction to this study?
Well, there's a lot of things that have changed since 2004.
Yes.
We're looking at kind of an upheaval in society, and I'm sure that's part of it. The other thing is that we look at in Illinois is we have what's called the firearm owner's identification card. And so every person that has one of those in Illinois goes through a background check every night. The only times that doesn't happen are New Year's Day, Easter, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, because the courts aren't open. But so every night I go through a background check, and because I have a concealed carry permit, I go through a second background check every night.
All right, so you're talking about the FOID card. And Richard, I have to mention that your video is frozen, but we can hear your audio. So different regulations in Illinois versus federally. Go ahead.
So in Illinois, gun owners, legal gun owners, go through background checks every night. So if you look at the shootings with so-called assault weapons, or whatever you call them, because they're not really assault weapons, we'll talk about that in a minute, but anyway, they're very few. The problem we have in Illinois is that the certain parts of Illinois has a huge trafficking of drugs of all kinds, and there's large amounts of money that can be made or lost. There's turf wars up there, and around the Chicago area, and so we see these people being arrested, and the police are frustrated because now they arrest them and they immediately let them out. Before, I was involved with looking at one in which a young man was killed by a gang member, and his dad knew who it was and wouldn't even testify because he was afraid to.
So you're saying it's more of a prosecution problem for local prosecutors here than it is a gun problem, although there are a lot of illegal guns that get in the hands of people in Chicago. Lori-Ann, back to your study, you focused Mostly on mass shootings, not the kind of homicides that typically happen in Chicago. Why did you want to focus just on mass shootings?
Well, because mass shootings generate the most discussion and most media response, even though they make up less than 1% of all death by guns of any type. And so I wanted to focus on mass shootings because it's a specific type of shooting which I define as 4 or more fatalities, not including the perpetrator. And I look at whether or not we could prevent those mass shootings from ever occurring.
And Richard, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lori.
I was just going to say those are a very different type than what Richard is describing there. So they are not they're not in the commission of other crimes. They're not part of drug exchanges or gang killings. It's where somebody specifically goes and premeditates killing as many people as possible in a public area.
So and these are different kinds of crimes, Richard, than you were referring to before. And also you're talking about Illinois restrictions. Are there gun control measures that the Illinois State Rifle Association would be willing to support federally, like universal background checks?
Well, we already have universal background checks in Illinois, so it doesn't matter.
Sure.
What they do to me, I'm in charge of Illinois, but nationwide, that's very unpopular among firearm owners. They really get angry about that, and they feel it's an invasion of privacy. The Congress will, of course, will decide that. But I was going to go back to the shooting, for example, the latest one in Colorado. Colorado and Illinois and other places have red flag laws. So if anyone knows of any person who is thinking about committing a crime, the red flag law can be invoked and the police will come out, arrest him, take his firearm, and at some point he will be adjudicated in court as being, a danger or not a danger, but he is out of the picture for a while. And his family knew that this was going to happen, yet they didn't use the tools that were given them. So one of the problems we have is, I and like many other gun owners in Illinois do not want to give up our AR-15, and that's going to be very hard for us to do.
So Richard Pearson mentioned that these kinds of things are very unpopular among gun owners. You are a member of the NRA, as we said at the top. Do you believe rank and file NRA members would support something like a national assault weapons ban or further gun safety measures?
I would say that NRA members is a heterogeneous population, and there's not just one type of person. I wanted to learn about gun laws, gun safety, and hence did my training and learned about the NRA that way. But I would just say that I would say a lot of people would support preventing certain individuals from owning assault weapons and large capacity magazines.
All right, we're going to have to leave our discussion there. Our thanks to Richard Pearson and Lori Ann Post. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.